What's going on, guys? Today, we're going to explore together one of the most insane and terrifying confrontations, not just in Spider-Man's history, but the absolute worst nightmare for all symbiotes. An ancient entity so primordial that even creatures of darkness like Venom and Carnage scream in sheer panic. That entity is Torment, the supreme predator of the symbiote race. On one fateful night in New York, the symbiotic network connecting every symbiote on Earth simultaneously unleashed a warning signal that tore through the minds of Eddie Brock and Cletus Cassidy. A blood-red storm swept across the city, not rain, but strands of symbiote sinew dissolving in absolute agony. At the center of the storm, Spider-Man, Venom, and Carnage were not fighting each other. They stood on the same side, trembling before a silhouette that slowly stepped out from the abyss. And in that darkest moment, when Peter Parker tried cracking a joke to keep spirits up, Venom's voice, for the first time no longer that of a savage beast, echoed through Peter's mind in a terror-filled whisper. "Shut up, Parker. Don't let it notice us. That is not an enemy. That is a god, and we are nothing but its food." In that moment, we realized a horrifying truth. In a universe of predators, there is always one at the top of the food chain, and Torment had just arrived to harvest its crop. Before diving deep into this massacre, we need to understand why Torment is the absolute nightmare for the symbiote race, and why Venom's fear of it surpasses even its fear of fire and sonic waves. We are not talking about some ordinary alien monster with a few fangs that enjoys eating people. We are talking about the living embodiment of destruction, born from the very abyss of Carnage, the Lord of Darkness. We begin with a dark truth rarely mentioned in Marvel history, a secret depicted in Donny Cates's Venom series and scattered fragments of symbiote memory. From the primordial dawn of the universe, before light existed, Carnage ruled the void. He created the symbiote race from his own living darkness, but most of them were merely tools, puppets without consciousness. To serve his most brutal hunts, to snuff out every newly kindled spark of life, Carnage created a special breed, entities that were not merely symbiotic, but pure destroyers. And Torment was one of Carnage's first, most perfect, and most ruthless spiritual children. Venom's voice echoed through the symbiote's own memory, a whisper filled with anguish. We tried to forget. Our entire race tried to bury the memory of it. When we were still a hive, before the rebellion, before we freed ourselves from Carnage, we witnessed Torment feeding. It did not kill us, it absorbed us. It devoured the souls of symbiotes and belched out empty husks like hollow shells. For our kind, death by fire or sonic waves is a merciful release. To be consumed by Torment is to spend eternity inside its stomach, where your consciousness is crushed, but is never allowed to die. This is the origin of Venom's motivation. The resistance of Eddie Brock and Venom this time is not about protecting the city. It is a primal fear embedded deep into the DNA of every symbiote. When I say Torment overwhelms Spider-Man, Venom, and Carnage, that does not mean it is merely a little stronger. It is so powerful that this confrontation is not a battle at all, but a predatory ritual. Carnage, with its wildest chaotic instincts and bloodlust, is generally considered the most dangerous of them all. But Torment does not even regard Carnage as a threat. It looks at Carnage the way a gardener looks at a piece of ripe fruit, ready to be harvested. Every attack from the trio is meaningless, not because Torment is too fast or too durable, but because it operates by an entirely different law of survival. To Torment, Spider-Man is nothing more than a useless layer of flesh to be peeled away, while Venom and Carnage are the delicious filling inside. All right, and this is truly the most brutal part. We are going back to the true origin of Torment and how it completely overwhelms all three of them. An abandoned church on the outskirts of New York, where Carnage is performing a blood ritual. He did not intentionally summon Torment. It was his bloodlust and chaotic energy that acted like a beacon in the void, calling Torment to awaken after millennia of slumber. Spider-Man arrived to stop Carnage, and Venom arrived to protect the city from the chaos. But the moment Torment appeared, the ceiling of the church shattered, not from a punch, but because the surrounding atmosphere suddenly transformed into a dark, crimson, toxic haze. From above, Torment dropped itself down. It had no fixed form, like Venom or Carnage. It was a chaotic mass of bone spikes, jaws, and red eyes sprawling across a body standing over 3 meters tall. Most crucially, its body constantly dripped a black amber liquid, and wherever that liquid touched the ground, the stone tiles of the church began to scream. The atmosphere at this point was not merely tense. It was a spiritual overwhelming. Spider-Man, with his spider sense, was immediately paralyzed. Peter did not feel an incoming punch. He felt his own death playing out across thousands of timelines simultaneously. And for Venom and Carnage, the situation was even worse. The symbiotes were not afraid. They went absolutely feral. The Venom symbiote's voice shrieked inside Eddie's mind. No, impossible. We fled. We hid on Earth for millions of years. How did it find us? And Carnage, for the first time in his life, Cletus Kasady felt an emotion coming from his symbiote that he had never known before: surrender. The Carnage symbiote, the most unhinged of all, was desperately trying to detach from Cletus and flee, but could not. Now, let us rewind into the past to explain why Torment is so terrifying. Many people mistakenly think Venom is Spider-Man's worst nightmare. That is like saying a mosquito is the nightmare of a T-Rex. In the abyss of Carnage, Torment was not created to fight, it was created to purge. Its purpose was to hunt down weak symbiotes, those traitors who had fled the hive, and reabsorb them back into the darkness. It was the evil version of a cosmic immune system, and its weapon was not claws, but a special type of antigen capable of completely suppressing the powers of other symbiotes. When an ordinary symbiote drew close to Torment, the bond between that symbiote and its host began to break down. They became limp, lost control of their form, and worse, they were compelled to return and merge with Torment, like water being pulled into a massive whirlpool. And the key point, the one that most people overlook, is Torment's individualized predatory instinct toward each person. Toward Spider-Man, it felt nothing but contempt. Peter Parker to it was nothing more than a noisy little bug wrapped in a scrap of leftover cloth. But toward Venom and Carnage, it harbored a very particular craving. It did not speak to Peter. It simply brushed him aside like swatting a fly. But when it turned its gaze to Venom, it spoke, its voice ringing out like stone grinding against steel. Eddie Brock, you carry within you a fragment of the Dark King. You have tasted the essence of a god and fancied yourself divine. But you are nothing more than a stray dog gnawing on a bone far beyond its worth. Return it now. This line of dialogue is critically important. It reveals the true nature of the hunt. Torment did not come to kill Venom. It came to reclaim what belongs to Carnage. Let us break this down a bit. Why were all three of them completely overwhelmed? Spider-Man relies on physical strength, speed, and his webs. But when Peter fired his webs at Torment, they dissolved instantly, broken down at the molecular level by the toxic atmosphere surrounding its body. Every punch Peter landed on Torment not only dealt zero damage, but left his hands burning from the acidic fluid seeping out of its body. Venom, with its superior strength, charged in with tearing bites. But here is where it gets horrifying. Torment did not dodge. It let Venom bite into its shoulder, and the moment Venom's teeth sank in, Venom began to scream. Torment's body started pulling back, drawing Venom's symbiote inward. Eddie Brock felt his symbiote being ripped away from every single cell in his body, and Carnage, the most savage of the three, suffered the same fate. Carnage attempted to drive its spiked tendrils straight through Torment, but everything that touched Torment was assimilated. Compared to enemies from before, Green Goblin and Dr. Octopus were nothing more than city-level terrorists. Torment is an extinction-level catastrophe. Now we arrive at the moment that I personally believe is one of the most terrifying displays of power ever shown, the moment where Spider-Man is pushed into a state of complete and utter despair, and Venom is forced to confront the truth that it is nothing but prey. After being hurled into a wall, Peter Parker pulled off his mask, gasping for breath, blood trickling from the corner of his mouth. He looked over at Venom. Eddie Brock was on his knees. The Venom symbiote convulsed violently, shifting uncontrollably between a demonic face and a human face, producing sounds that mixed between Venom's snarls and Eddie's desperate pleading. Torment stepped forward. Each footfall cracked the ground beneath it, and every crucifix inside the church automatically inverted itself. It extended its massive hand with claws forged from condensed symbiote bone and seized Venom by the head. And then it began to extract the core. Immediately, all of Venom's life energy was pulled toward Torment. We see a stream of pure black liquid, crackling with red lightning, being drawn out of Eddie's body. This was not a killing. This was a soul absorption. Eddie Brock, a man who had faced the worst fears imaginable, let out a scream Peter had never heard before. It was the scream of a man feeling his own soul being torn in two. But then, the unthinkable happened. Carnage, who was Venom's sworn and irreconcilable enemy, was the one to act next. Not because he wanted to save Venom, but because his most primal survival instinct surged to the surface. Cletus Kasady screamed, "You don't get to eat it. That's my toy. Only I get to kill Venom." He lunged forward, not with claws, but by detonating part of his own body, turning himself into thousands of razor fragments that blasted straight into Torment's face. This was a suicidal move, because Carnage was voluntarily separating a massive chunk of his own symbiote from himself. The true climax came when Spider-Man realized this. Peter understood that physical strength was meaningless. He recalled the battle with Venom years ago, recalled that the symbiote's weaknesses were sonic waves and fire. But Torment was unaffected by fire. Its atmospheric layer extinguished every flame before it could even ignite. What about sonic waves? Peter spotted the church's massive, rust-covered bell. Using every last ounce of his remaining strength, he fired an extremely thick web at the bell and yanked it crashing down. The sound of the falling bell rang out with a deafening, skull-splitting tone. Venom and Carnage simultaneously screamed in agony, their bodies melting and recoiling. But what about Torment? It only paused for a single second. It slowly turned to look at Peter, and for the first time, it spoke directly to him. "Human, you believe that noise can hurt me? I was born from the silence of the void, before this universe even had a concept of sound. Your racket is nothing more than a lullaby to me." What followed was a scene of absolute despair. Torment did not bother killing Spider-Man immediately. It considered him beneath its attention. It continued its work, draining Venom dry. It successfully pulled from Eddie's body a pitch-black fragment of primordial symbiote, a shard from Carnage's own all-black, the Necro Sword, that Venom had unknowingly been carrying within itself. It swallowed that fragment whole, and its body expanded, becoming even more terrifying. A surreal scene then unfolded. Venom shriveled like a mummy and fell unconscious. Carnage was impaled by its own scattered fragments and lay collapsed in a pool of its own black blood. And Spider-Man, the hero considered the strongest in the hearts of fans, could now only stand there, gasping, empty-handed, and completely powerless. Torment had not defeated them through tactics. It had overwhelmed them through the very nature of the universe. In the darkness, the supreme predator always wins, and the outcome of this confrontation did not end with a spectacular comeback. It ended in the silence of defeat. Torment, having taken what it came for, which was the fragment of Carnage from Venom, simply left. It did not stay to massacre them, because to Torment, Earth was nothing more than a small pond it had accidentally waded through. The consequence of this battle was not the death of Peter Parker, but the mental collapse of the young hero. Venom survived, but was reduced to a pale shadow of itself, stripped of its primordial power, and robbed of a portion of the symbiote's memories. Eddie Brock cradled the withered remains of his symbiote and whispered, "It took our dream away. It took away the meaning of our existence." Spider-Man has always been a predator in the world of street-level criminals. Venom and Carnage are far more fearsome predators in the world of superheroes, but Torment represents a brutal truth. There is always a bigger fish. You may be unrivaled within your own city, but in the vast scale of the universe, you are nothing more than a fleeting creature. This overwhelming defeat was not dangerous because it nearly killed them. It was dangerous because it shattered their belief in their own strength. Peter Parker, a man who once defeated Juggernaut through intellect alone, a man who once held his ground against the Phoenix Force itself, now came to understand that there are things that cannot be overcome by sheer willpower. He was nothing more than an ant in the path of giants. Is Torment's power more dangerous than cosmic entities? The answer is yes, but not in the same way. Torment is not a threat to all of reality the way the Beyonders or Galactus are. It is dangerous because it is specialized. It is the perfect natural counter. If you are a symbiote, or if you are bonded to one, Torment is your personal Grim Reaper. Its danger lies in an irresistible force that works from within. You cannot resist the very thing you were created from. That is why in later story arcs, Eddie Brock was compelled to seek out an even greater power, a true awakening to become the genuine Dark King, so that other Torments would never again dare to see him as prey. In summary, courage and willpower mean nothing when you are standing against the very entity that created your entire species. Spider-Man, Venom, and Carnage did not lose because they were weak. They lost because they stepped into a fight they were never meant to belong in. Torment is not just a monster. It is a cosmic lesson in humility, delivered by the universe to those who dare to call themselves predators. And now, I want to hear from you. What do you think? If Carnage truly returns and brings an entire army of Torments with him, does Venom have what it takes to rise as the Dark King and protect the Earth? Or would we need the intervention of an even greater entity like the Silver Surfer? Or do you believe the bond between Venom and Eddie Brock is still strong enough after being drained dry by Torment? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. And do not forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell. If you want to support us further so we can keep producing in-depth analysis videos like this every week, come visit us. Thank you all for being here with me, and I will see you in the next Cosmic Story. Peace out.